Sony just can't seem to stop setting their money on fire. The new IGN report just dropped exposing Marathon's budget, and yeah dude, things are looking pretty grim for Bungie's latest live service gamble. According to an IGN article summarizing a report from Forbes, Marathon's development budget was like over $200 million, and likely even pushed past $250 million. And get this, that doesn't even include the cost to maintain the servers, the marketing, or pumping out post-launch content. Like seriously, over $250 million for a niche extraction shooter? I don't know who is approving these budgets at PlayStation, but they might need to get their heads checked because there's no way Sony and Bungie are making those numbers back, dude. It's just wild to me that after the monumental disaster that was Concord, we're still seeing these bloated budgets for games that nobody asked for in the first place. Like dude, we all remember Concord, right? The $400 million hero shooter that Sony hyped up to be the next Star Wars, only to shut it down in literally 2 weeks because like 25,000 people bought it worldwide. You'd think Sony would have learned their lesson and pumped the brakes on these massive live service games, but no, they just keep the money printer running for Bungie. And let's not forget the absolute mess Bungie has been in lately to even get to this point. Just back in July of 2024, they laid off like 220 employees, which was 17% of their workforce, and that was already after having laid off a bunch of people the year before. And the cherry on top, well, all these talented developers were hitting the unemployment line, and their CEO, Pete Parsons, was out here reportedly spending like almost $3 million on classic cars from auction sites. The talent gets shown the door, and the suits get to ride around in vintage Porsches while shipping a $250 million game that is currently struggling to even keep players logging in. Because yeah, the player numbers for Marathon aren't looking hot at all. If you look at the Steam charts right now, the game is regularly peaking at under 30,000 players. Like as of mid-April 2026, it's sitting around 23 to 24,000 concurrents on a good day. It launched with a peak of about 88,000 on Steam, and it's just been a steady bleed ever since. Now, some people out here might try to defend it and say, oh, but what about the console players? Sony doesn't make the PS5 numbers public, so it could be pretty huge over there. Well, the Forbes report actually confirmed that around 70% of Marathon's player base is on Steam. So you do the math. That means Sony's own primary audience on the PS5 is actively ignoring this game. The console crowd just does not care. Why would you pour $250 million into a game where your own console install base is treating it like it doesn't even exist? It just goes to show that extraction shooters are incredibly niche, man. The whole genre is basically built around stressing the player out. You drop into a map, you loot some stuff, and then you die, you lose everything. It's a punishing hardcore loop that appeals to a very specific type of gamer who likes getting kicked in the teeth by games like Escape from Tarkov or Hunt Showdown. It's not the kind of mainstream casual experience that justifies $250 million. You compare that to something like Helldivers 2, which was just a massive hit for Sony back in 2024. Helldivers 2 was PvE, it was co-op, it was just pure chaotic fun. You drop in with your buddies, you blow up alien bugs while accidentally dropping an airstrike on their heads. It had mass appeal. It was priced right, and it didn't come with the cost of a small island nation to produce. But instead of leaning into what actually works and what gamers actually want, publishers are chasing the extraction shooter trend, hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. And I played a bit of Marathon, and dude, it's like just exhausting. The visual design is so weird and blocky, you can barely tell what's going on. And they have this lore they try to drip feed you in between matches in the form of these stilted cutscenes. But it's nothing compared to the rich world building of Halo or even the early days of Destiny. You're just running around getting shot from across the map by someone you couldn't even see, losing all your gear and then getting booted back to the lobby to listen to little Timmy raging in the voice chat. How is that supposed to retain a massive casual audience? It doesn't, it just alienates them. And the crazy part is the audience for these games is already busy playing other stuff. You've got Arc Raiders pulling massive numbers because it actually innovated on the extraction formula and made it more accessible and social. People are chilling in Arc Raiders, taking down massive robot behemoths together. And then you have Marathon, which comes late to the party, charges a premium box price, and expects players to just drop everything they're currently doing to come play a hyper-competitive, visual, jarring, sci-fi shooter where you can barely tell the human players apart from the NPC robots. It's just a total disconnect from reality. The developers gave the game good bones, the shooting mechanics are solid because hey, it's Bungie, they know how to make a shooter that feels good, but the overall package just screams of some corporate suit stepping into the boardroom and saying, how do we milk the Destiny crowd in a brand new genre? Well, news alert, you already had Destiny, and well, you just let it die. Now, the IGN article does try to soften the blow a little bit. They state that despite the pressure on Bungie to gain more players, Marathon is allegedly not facing an imminent Concord-style shutdown. Eurogamer has also collaborated this, saying that the developers are apparently heads down and they're working on new content, and sure, I guess that's a win in today's gaming landscape. The bar is literally on the floor right now. Hey guys, our $250 million game isn't being deleted from existence and wiped from the servers after 14 days. Hey, let's pop the champagne. Like, it's great that the developers aren't getting the rug pulled out from under them immediately, and I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, but let's be real here. If you're a live service game bleeding players by the tens of thousands and your publisher just swallowed a massive financial hit, the clock is ticking. You can only keep the servers running on hopium for so long before the executives upstairs start looking at a spreadsheet and decide to pull the plug. And this isn't even a Bungie problem, this is like a systemic Sony problem. Remember when Sony announced that they were making 12 live service games? Yeah, how is that working out for them again? They literally had to cancel the Last of Us multiplayer game, a spin-off to one of their most beloved franchises, because Naughty Dog realized that it would consume their entire studio just to maintain the live service slop, so they canned it. And good for Naughty Dog, honestly, but it just shows how misguided Sony's leadership has been. They bought Firewalk Studios just to watch Concord burn $400 million and die in 2 weeks. They bought Bungie for $3.6 billion to be their live service money cow, and Bungie ends up laying off hundreds of people and delivering an extraction shooter that peaks at 24,000 players on Steam. It's a total disaster class in corporate management. Jim Ryan's whole vision of turning PlayStation into a live service factory is slowly collapsing, and I couldn't be any happier about it. And this is the bigger problem with AAA gaming right now that just makes me want to pull my hair out. The budgets are completely out of control. When you spend $250 million on development alone, your game just doesn't need to be good, it needs to be a global phenomenon just to break even. It has to sell millions of copies, hook players into a battle pass, sell them on $20 cosmetics, keep them on a hamster wheel of grinding for the next, several years. It's an unsustainable model. It forces studios to play it incredibly safe, or in Bungie's case, chase a trend that was popular 3 years ago, but at this point, it's just completely oversaturated. I remember when a game like Gears of War 3 cost Epic Games like $60 million to make, and it was a massive complete package with a campaign, co-op, horde mode, and multiplayer. Now games cost 4 times as much, with 4 times less content. But hey, at least now they take twice as long to make. And honestly, I just miss the classic Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era. You know, if I bought a game, I owned it, period. Like, if the servers died, I could still boot up the campaign, or play, local co-op. With a lot of this live service dog water, like Marathon, the second they pull the plug, it becomes digital toilet paper. And at that point, you're just praying that they give refunds. And at that point, you're just praying that they give people refunds. All that genuine effort the developers put into the shooting mechanics, the cool sci-fi aesthetic, the sound design, it's just gone forever. Just entirely wiped from existence because they refuse to let the game exist outside of this always online predatory ecosystem. Meanwhile, you have independent studios out here stealing their lunch money, and they're popping up left and right, finding absolute success in giving gamers the satisfying experience they ask for. I always talk about this one, but Claire Obscure Expedition 33 looks like they have a $200 million budget, but they were made for a fraction of that cost. And they racked up millions of sales and keep a healthy concurrent player base despite being a single player game. And they're able to deliver a complete gripping story without asking for your credit card every time you open the menu. And now we have Pragmata coming out, and that's completely dominating the conversation, proving that single-player games without a microtransaction focus are exactly what the market is starving for. People are tired of the slop. They want complete handcrafted experiences, not live service traps designed to drain their wallets. You know, and it always breaks my heart to see what Bungie has become. Like, I grew up with Halo 2 and 3. The campaigns were epic, the multiplayer was revolutionary for its time. The community features were years ahead of their time. Even Destiny, for all its flaws and constant roller coaster of good and bad expansions, had a soul to it at least. The gunplay was unmatched, but now Bungie just feels like a hollow shell of what it used to be, just existing to pump out live service games for Sony's portfolio. The fact that Sony bought them for almost $4 billion just to be a live service cash cow, only for the entire live service market to start collapsing right in front of their eyes. It's almost poetic. Sony pivoted away from the single-player cinematic narrative juggernauts that made them so legendary. Also, they could chase that Fortnite money. And Fortnite is collapsing. And all they have to show for it is a dead Concord, a struggling Marathon, and a bunch of laid-off developers. So what happens to Marathon from here? Honestly, I don't see it recovering to the point to where it justifies the massive budget. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that Marathon is the next big flop. I mean, it's not gonna make its money back. Sure, the hardcore players who like getting punished will stick around. Maybe they'll drop a big season update that brings a few thousand players back for the weekend, but the mainstream audiences, they've already moved on. There's just too many other games out here that respect your time and don't make you pay money to get your teeth kicked in by sweats who play the game 12 hours a day. You know, it just goes to show Sony just hasn't learned their lesson since Concord. But maybe as Marathon continues to struggle to hold on to its sub 30,000 peak players, they'll finally learn it eventually. The live service gold rush is over. Gamers are voting with their wallets, and they're tired of being treated like walking ATM machines for games that feel more like a second job than a hobby. Anyway, dude, I just needed to rant about this because it's so frustrating watching these legendary studios crash and burn because of greedy corporate mandates. I'm gonna go back to playing games that actually have a pause button to them. This is RageWatch, and I'm out. Thanks for watching.